You are what you should be, you will set the world ablaze. And who gave us that phrase but our patron, St. Catherine of Siena. In his analysis, Mr. Kelly defined a highly engaged parishioner. And this is where you go back into subsidiarity. They're not talking about people who are working at the diocesan level or the USCCB or this type of thing. They're talking about folks who are working down at the grassroots level. And in their research, Kelly and his folks developed 264 unique behaviors of people who would be considered dynamic Catholics. So, you fellow dynamic Catholics or dynamic Catholics to be, one of the things that they did was they looked at the numbers, because as in business, that which gets counted gets done. Right? Okay.
That's accounting.
All right.
Why did it have-
So, they looked at this on a national basis for the United States. What percentage of parishioners qualify as highly engaged parishioners or dynamic Catholics? 20%? The Pareto principle, the old 80-20 rule. Anybody go for that one?
At the high end.
Okay. How about 15%? Sound more reasonable? Okay. 10%? Anybody go for 10? The real number is 7%. Okay? On a national basis, that's the percentage of parishioners who are highly engaged. And we'll go into what qualifies as being highly engaged.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Just the United States, is that what you
Yes.
said?
Yes.
All right.
Now that may
And
sound,
that top number comes like from registered parishioners.
well, it basically is, yeah, it's registered parishioners and interviews with these people and, you know, what are you doing, why, you know.
And I would say, based on the numbers we have here, St. Catherine's is probably at that level.
Yeah. While that doesn't sound very encouraging, my first job was with USAA in San Antonio. And they have a large number of retired military who work there. At least they did, because there were a lot of people getting out of the military. One of the fellows I worked with was a retired lieutenant colonel, and his specialty was counterinsurgency. And in talking with him, I said, well, how many people does it take to overthrow a government? And he said, believe it or not, 5% of the population can overthrow a government. So we're a little bit ahead of the power curve here, I guess, but not by much. Okay.
Don't put that on.
The four aspects. The first one is prayer, surprisingly enough. And for these people, God is personal. There is a personal relationship that they have with the Almighty. There is daily prayer. They have a habit of doing this. How many of you folks say the divine office in the morning? I know you do. Derek? Anybody else? Okay. That's a habit you get into. Or maybe it might be saying the morning offering. But it's something that you do every day, no matter what. And it's best to do it at the same time and even at the same place. I've gotten real lazy. My daily rosary is said when I get into bed at night. And I usually make it through all 5 decades, but sometimes maybe not so.
We just call them sleeping beads.
Yeah, just our Father who art in, that's it. Okay. The next aspect of the highly engaged Catholic is that they are engaged in study. They are doing something to increase their knowledge of Catholicism. It can be books, it can be CDs, it can be DVDs, radio, EWTN, you name it, conferences. And we had a fairly high percentage of folks here attend the the North Texas Catholic Men's Conference.
Yes.
I mean, looking around the room, a lot of us were there. The next aspect, humility and disagreements. How many of you agree with everything that the church teaches? Hopefully everybody does, but we know that there are times when people will say, I'm really having a problem with this particular aspect of this particular teaching. Okay? It's not always easy to get your hands around or your mind around some of these aspects. But in humility, you should say, okay, I don't necessarily agree with it, I'll follow it, and then go to the next step, and that's seek an outside source to help you resolve it. Give you a little anecdote here. Anybody here ever go to CatholicMatch.com? I have. I'm on it right now. I'm looking, okay? And in this, there are a series of questions. Some of them are basically, how often do you attend Mass? This type of thing. And then there are a series basically of questions that relate to your beliefs. Let me see if I can get those here. The ones that deal with beliefs are church teaching. Do you believe in what church teaches on the Eucharist? Do you believe what the church teaches on contraception, the sanctity of life, papal infallibility, premarital sex, immaculate conception, and holy orders? The responses from some of the ladies are quite interesting. Which two do you think they disagree with church teaching on? Contraception.
Yeah, I was gonna go and
Yeah.
say abortion. Contraception, right.
It's pre-abortion, that's close enough. What's the other one?
People.
Holy orders.
No.
What was the list again?
The list is Eucharist, contraception, sanctity of life, papal infallibility, premarital sex, immaculate conception, and holy orders.
How's the sanctity of life
Yeah.
question asked?
Yeah.
Does it just say sanctity of life? Or
Yeah,
does it-
just says sanctity of life.
I would say infallibility because that follow from the fact that they don't agree with.
Maybe
No.
premarital sex.
Bingo, premarital sex.
Well, it's a match.com site.
Okay. So, continuous learning is something that these highly engaged people do. Along those lines, you got to have the resources to do it. I got to looking at my library and said, what are these books doing? They're gathering dust. So if anybody wants to borrow a book, just write your name next to the title. Is it? Okay, go ahead. You want to. And you'll see that what I read really has no direction to it. It's kind of like being self-taught. Oh, this looks interesting. Right now I'm reading a book on tradition, scripture, tradition, okay, magisterium in the church. And I'm also reading a book by a sister whose last name is Emmerich, who had mystical visions of Christ's passion. Emmerich is called The Dolorous Passion of Jesus Christ is the title. And it's very interesting.
Yeah, along with the gospel, that book was the foundation for the Mel Gibson movie.
Okay, that's one with Mel Gibson, okay.
Yeah. And it has an imprimatur and a nihil obstat too. It's not something that somebody just cooked up.
And if you can't remember if she's blessed or venerable, she's not a saint yet.
She's not a saint yet. No. Okay.
Chuck.
Who?
Charles.
There you go. I'm not Chuck.
Yeah. I shortened it almost. I just wanted to mention something real quick about humility and disagreements.
Mhm.
And it's been very helpful to me. And I heard on Catholic radio, and when you hear something in regards to our religion, if it's based on the magisterium or the catechism, you just accept it.
Mhm.
And in time, you get to believe it.
Mhm.
I've got a real life example in RCA this year. We've got a gal who's challenged by ordination, lack thereof of females. So slowly but surely, we're gonna work this through for her, but that's one of the things that she's challenged. And her sponsor's helping her, but that's, you know, it's something she has